Hello, welcome back to BLENDERSUSHI live noding. In this video, we will further explore Cycles point density nodes. I'm using Blender 2.78 now, and in this version, if we go to Blender Cycles render and then go under Material, use nodes, we can see that the point density now has more options. So it has particle system like before and object vertices, so we can grab the points of mesh and then turn it into like a point cloud as a density. And here we have the usual normal weight, and actually they are new. Previously we have it on a particle. Velocity, speed, age, it doesn't have particle color yet, and it doesn't have control over the radius, but I guess pretty good enough. And object vertices, now we have actually input for from the mesh color source that comes from vertex normal or weight or color. So yeah, so let's have a look how we can set it up. The normal way is if you're dealing with a vertex normal or weight or color, the best way is just to render it out. So I will this cube is gonna be like the domain where the volume will exist. I'm gonna save it real quick. Cycles, volumetric. So it's gonna be mostly about cycles. It's still live noding because I'm using these nodes, but yeah, we'll see. I believe I need to apply the scale, rotation scale, and I will turn this guy into wire so we can see what's inside this guy. If I try to put in something like an icosphere, for example, let's see what it does. Let's grab the icosphere, and then space should be world space. Radius default 0.3. Density, so we are going to be dealing with volume. So apparently with volume, you can use volume absorption, volume scatter, and apparently you can also kind of force using the emission and strength. I was reading these documentations on cycles materials volume. So you can see you can use absorption, scatter, or emissions. And this is one example where you can use the setup to render out smoke and flame. There's still limitation. You could also watch this video tutorial by Spunky Kangaroo. That gives you also a good example on how it works. Alright, so let's try render. I'm gonna grab the icosphere, right, and from here, and then turn on Vertex Color. It doesn't have Vertex Color yet, but we can use Vertex Normal, for example. And let's try Volume Scatter first, and have a render. So that's what we got. Vertex Normal, not terribly exciting. Let's try emission. Emission tends to be brighter, just like a light. So that's what I like to use. It's apparently rendering the icosphere as well. we might want to hide it. I don't know if I should turn this guy on. It seems to have a little bit of effects, like even the shadow. Gonna turn it off. So this object's gonna behave just like a volume emitter or a point cloud, and this guy will render. This is the guy that will receive the material. Can save. Now let's try Vertex Color. So of course, obviously we need to colorize these objects, and if you want to do it manually, it's up to you. You can do that using Vertex Paint. So there is Weight Paint and Vertex Paint. Don't get those confused. With Vertex Paint, you can have the RGB value for each point, and while with weight painting, you can have value that's a single value, floating value. Vertex Paint, for example, and in Blend, I noticed that in this version of Blender, everything's a lot faster. Even though I'm using my old computer, doing this is a lot smoother. So I'm just randomly colorizing this icosphere. I could use Sverchok, but this is a manual way. It's still kind of good. It's more human friendly, I guess. There's something about doing it by hand instead of all procedural sometimes, but yeah. Okay, so back to default view, render it out. Still the same because I haven't changed this material to use Vertex Color. Now it's grabbing the color from that object, and we are still getting the same look because of this color hasn't been plugged in. So now we have a color, which is really nice. I was like doing a bit of brainstorming and researching on what could we really use this kind of volume for, and I realized that for stuff like trees, for example, you have like if you imagine a trees and then a forest. If you have like a forest with 100 or thousands or 10,000 of trees, all the leaves just gonna look like a volume. It's no longer like a solid object. It's almost like maybe not so much as cloud. Maybe the edges a little bit crisper or contrast with trees, but all the trees will just look like a kind of like a noise or volume. So you can probably use volume to render out trees or give that kind of forest kind of look. And with this method, everything seems to be very efficient in that kind. You definitely don't want to procedurally generate leaves for trees and then do it for 100,000. Depends. Maybe in such situation you will do that anyway. So just now I just added this math node, multiplying and adding. Actually, this math will work with the volume. So this is something that I'm still kind of exploring, and it will take some hundred of hours, I guess, but I'm not gonna do that on a video, but just showing it to you. The result with the multiply doesn't like. Okay, I made a mistake. The multiply should be before. So Alt, grab it and multiply it here. Now we have a kind of like a good looking volumetric light, and this will react with any surface. If we have a plane like that and just give it a diffuse material, this will react with the volume emitter. So that's actually a light, and it's really efficient. Yeah, so that's with icosphere. If I'm not wrong, you can also kind of use multiple of this. Let's say I'm duplicating it, rotating it back to the cube. Now I can perhaps duplicate the point density and then grab the other icosphere. Let's see if this actually works, and multiply. Not multiply, this is going to be add. So this is actually really common. Once you get into cycles material, you work a lot with a math node like this. Seems to have failed, or no, it's a let me try something. Increase the radius on this guy, reduce the resolution for now. Normally 100 or 200 is good enough for that. I still have the Vertex Color, right? So icosphere 001, let's do that for now. Radius 0.7. Everything's right. Oh, the color comes from that guy. Okay. So we probably need to mix the color as well. The light's too strong. Yeah, that's kind of nice. It's kind of giving this a very aural kind of look. And remember, you can always deform this guy using modifier, displace modifier, perhaps. Just give it a noise kind of texture. Cloud or Musgrave. Let's try Musgrave. Dimension 3, 4. Octave. Yeah, that's alright. And I'm gonna show you a new trick I learned. This is also will work on Blender 2.78. It's a driver. So now, because I like the driver in this version of Blender a lot, you see, okay, this guy, we can control the texture displacement using an object, right? This is all tricked, and you can animate this guy slowly, perhaps. Now look at this. If I'm animating on the, let's say on the Z axis, or maybe better on the green axis. So it's the Y. This is the Y, and if I want to control it using time, I can do that now with a Blender driver easily, really easily. So you see the timeline here, start and and this is the time that's changing. This is the if you look at the data, is a bpy.data.scene frame current. So we can connect, we can pipe this value into the y, for example. You just need to hover over this property and then Control D, single from target, and click on this. Now we have the time controlling our locator. If you want to have more control, you go to animations and switch to drivers. Select that guy and then we will see the setup it has at the moment. So obviously it's gonna move based on time value. This is like the time and value going up. And if you want to make adjustment, it's here. It's a scripted expression. This is Python. This is the variable frame current. Don't change anything here. Don't change anything here, okay? But go up here and then multiply it by a small value. For example, if you wanna kind of smooth deforming object using the texture. So now the texture is kind of floating. Maybe give it like 0.7, yeah. And then I can smooth it. This is Musgrave doing it. Well, anyway, back to default view. Let's see if I'm not wrong. This guy have custom, probably not. Never mind. So back to compositing. Hide this guy. Back to this material in creations. Let's have a look. So we still have that object now. It's kind of like a it should be deforming. If your computer is fast and you have a GPU, that will work really well. Do I have GPU here? OpenCL. Save. Maybe a little bit, just a little bit faster. I know some people who work with cycles with this renderings feel always on, and it can go really fast. Loading render kernels may take a few minutes for the first time. This is actually my first time using GPU on this laptop inside Blender. It's probably new. I'm probably just gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna run another Blender. I'm using Automata now, and I can load Blender without having to dig inside the app. That's kind of handy. Thanks to, there's a post on the Twitter. I can't remember from who, but thanks for that tips. Okay, this is doing rendering. Maybe when it's done, it's gonna be a lot faster. I will open another Blender. QuickTime's recording. Okay, another Blender. So this is the advantage of Blender. You can have multiple Blender in one computer running. While rendering, you can still work. File, save as. This is Cycles, volumetric 3. Let's jump to compositing right away. Let's see what I'm going to do next. Sverchok. Yeah, let's use Sverchok to generate some random points. or maybe use grease pencil just for fun. Okay, just for fun. I'm gonna go to top view. This is just a kind of like a party trick, you know. The other day I went to Sydney Botanical Garden and I saw this kind of pattern. It's kind of like snail spiral, you know, and then it's the plant kind of forming this. So I guess we can use that idea, file, save, and convert grease pencil into, I think Bezier curve is the best for this. I can now hide the grease pencil. Sometimes we don't see the result, potentially because I was selecting the lamp or the light and it's generating the curve on the second layer. See? There you go. Set origin to geometry to origin. Oh yeah, that will work. Save. Just save like crazy now. You will, if you go to edit mode, you can see it's a lot of points, and this guy is still a curve. We are going to use Sverchok, so I will convert it to mesh this time. So mesh is a polygon. Okay, now it's polygon and we have even more points. That's good for this. I'm gonna show you a cool trick. Object mesh, objects in, get selection. That's just a curve from GP, from grease pencil. Now we can use vector math. Oops. Vector math. Still trying to render, or errors in console. OpenGL failed. Maybe I need to update. I don't know, I need something to update. Anyway. Okay, vector math. Noise. Let's see. Should I use noise? I can use random first. Let's do an add for now. So original vertices goes in, and then random vector. Plug this in. Look at the output. Okay, it's doing that. What happens if I increase the number of points? Now it's starting to, we can start to see something. Let's do another vector math, but this is gonna scalar multiply the random points, so we need a float here. This is actually to reduce or increase the randomness. Well, maybe just a little bit, something like that. Which is nice. And how many points do we have here? We need to control get this length, grab from here, check it out. How many do we have? 2569. We should probably reduce that number, but I will show you this first. See, this is what we get. This is really fast using Sverchok. Yeah, so that's a quick way to turn grease pencil into a bunch of points. I want to use these points for my volume stuff. Not sure if this is gonna crash, but we will try. I think Blender is pretty fast in handling anything under 10,000 points. Because for For it to do the volume calculations, it's really gonna use the BVH thing, I believe. So this is not yet a point, this is a Sverchok viewer. We want to view, do we have particle here? No. Image viewer, MK2. One thing I noticed though, in order for point density to work with just points, it doesn't currently it doesn't work with just points. It needs to have faces, like polygon faces. So I believe we need to kind of turn on UV connections and then use this method. I can try. Let's see. I can show it to you. Vertices. Now, if I turn off the preview, now I actually have points. This is actually a mesh, an actual mesh. If I'm selecting this guy and then create a material, okay, that guy failed. CL failed, GPU mix. Gonna have to fix that. No, just terminate that. Blender, okay, we don't need to see Firefox for now. And this day Firefox so difficult to close. Interesting. New. Use nodes. We need to switch to cycle. Okay, it's wrong. Cycle renders. Select this guy and go under material, delete, new material. Okay, this is cycles material. Let's grab this guy and use it as a point light. Point density. Let's see if I turn this guy as a particle emitter and tell Blender to emit particle from its vertices randomly. How many? Let's try 1000 for now. Start and end 100, lifetime 50. So I will have like particles falling down. That's okay. Back to this guy. I'm gonna select our alpha object, select the particle system, turn on wall space, select wall space, radius 3.3, resolution, particle age. This is the color source. Don't worry, we just need a density. So use volume scatter node, pass it in. Let's have a look. See how Blender is really fast in calculating that. We can multiply the density. Sometimes though, when I multiply the density, the color seems to be reversed. I don't know why. Be careful, it shouldn't be add, it should be multiply. Be careful with that. Now it's like black. I think I need to have a light. Sun. Sometimes when you create cycles, suns can be like 100. Okay, that's much better. It's actually pretty fast. I'll go to particles and turn off the gravity. Turn off the gravity there, and then emitter turn off. Newtonian. If I turn off that, so now the particle doesn't have any kind of dynamics, so that's okay. numbers. Let's say we emit like 2000 particles. Still pretty fast, and it's quite nice looking result, really. If you are using, I kind of prefer using particle or mesh sometimes rather than things like flame. But flame is a good, flame is a simulation, it's really cool simulations. If you're driving particles using flames, you get this really nice kind of turbulence kind of motions. With particles, the nice thing is each point is controllable, and you can see it in the view. You can particle is so simple. It's just like a dot in 3D space, and you can control a lot of that particles, like the age, maybe the normal, and then the color of particles, of course. The speed, of course, comes from the force, and the particle itself can be controlled, or you can use a mesh to kind of control the particles to move into that mesh. And you can also instance particles. So particle is really powerful, especially if you're doing it with nodes and then you understand all the values that coming into each point of particle. So particle is really the big thing. One day controlling particles using nodes will be my priority. Okay, so we have this nice spirally kind of bush or smoke looking object. Now, can we control the color of this thing? I believe that the color here can be controlled by anything. Currently it's white. It can be like dark color like that. We don't necessarily need to plug this in, really. We can use any kind of noise here. If I plug in the color and look at the particle age, maybe I have a little bit of randomness, or particle velocity. It doesn't have any velocity, probably. Oh, it actually does have color. Oh, that's the velocity. How about speed? Black or gray? Okay. It doesn't have particle color yet, but the color, I reckon the color can come from object vertices, maybe. And I haven't tried, but how many points do we have here? This is 2569. 2569. 2569 objects. Start and 11. Lifetime 250. So all points will live forever. It will be born. 2569 will be born at frame 1. Velocity, just turn off everything. So I want to use object vertices, world space, radius, doesn't matter, color goes in there. Vertex normal, weight. Let's try weight. Can I weight? Yeah, the weight can also be controlled using Sverchok, for example. So back to Sverchok, we're really still working on this point. So before I use this UV connection stuff, this is more like a hack. Vertex weight, vertex group weighting, vertex indices, vertex weight. Object is that guy. The weight can be of a random number, random. The length is the weight. So I believe we now have the weighting. That's a SVV group. Don't know if it's really working. I can check on the outweight stethoscope. So yeah, there's some like random weighting happening. Back to cycles. Get the weight. Now I'm not sure if this is gonna work because from what I know, it doesn't really like it. Cannot see anything changing. If I use just noise, I will have color. There you go, color. Let's try using emission, and then here we're gonna mix the shader. Not just mix, maybe add shader together. So this guy and that guy, and plug in there. The color can come from the noise. The strength can be from the density. Maybe the color is too strong now. I'm gonna have another multiply. Value of 0.4. So now there's kind of like emissions underneath the cloud. Stop script. That's why. Quit. Maybe the point's too big. 0.1. The radius. We cannot randomize the radius, but we can have multiply. We can multiply the radius and combine them together. I think it's value of 5. This noise texture is more like a global in a way. It's not per point of the particles in this case. Can still create a nice effects, especially if you have 100,000 particle points, and then it's almost like maybe galaxy. I really like volumetric. You can kind of mix and match a lot of noise texture, which is really just a math function. Okay, let's get back to weighting. Why is the weighting not work? Because my feeling is that we need to have like a proper mesh. So really we should use UV connections. Plug that in. This is the default, okay? The default. It's gonna output like a super meshy kind of mesh. alpha 0, this alpha 2. Doesn't seem to like something. It's a random vector and scalar. So that's kind of the result I was expecting. Very messy, but that will actually work. That should work with the BMS viewer. Vertices and faces. Doesn't. Oh yeah, there you go. It works. Now it's called beta. Beta can be our source for the volume then. Beta doesn't have SV group, doesn't have any color. Vertex color. Plug that in there. It's complaining there is no SV group there. Vertex width. Doesn't like it. Okay, how about now? Let's have a look. It might still fail. I should maybe try it with a random color. Now it's loading point density, path tracing. So that object is actually rendering. Should have delete. Hide this guy. Hide everything. Render it again. I have a feeling that this actually works. There's like a variations on the light. That's probably the random weighting. There is extra objects there. Let me hide it. Delete. If I select this mesh and then check the weighting. There you go. There's the weight painting. Nice. Okay, it's actually working. Let's get back to this setup. Let's have a look. So the output goes into the volume. We have multiplier for the emission. The emissions might need a color from there as well. Render it again. So we must have some kind of multiplier. Maybe I forgot to plug in something. The density. Although I care more about the color in this case. Wonder if it's making any difference. Oh yeah, of course, because the density comes from the radius. There isn't really much difference, but it's kind of mixing the two now. Nice. Let's try one more thing with a random weighting is fine. What if we have like a random color? Okay, it's totally gonna be interesting. Vertex Color new. Our object will be this guy. Plug that in, and the color random. Random vector. Okay, random vector will give you value between -1 and 1, so we need to fix that. Vector map, no, vector in, vector out, and here we want to do remap, map range. Our good friend, -1, -1 here, -1 there, there, -1. Plug in the value. New, min, and max. And back to this guy. Switch to Vertex Color, SV Color, and render. Hopefully we have random colors for each points of the particles. And we didn't have anything. Where did it go wrong? I have a feeling that it might be problem with Sverchok, but let me think. If I disconnect that and just use emissions to the volume, let's cut that. Density directly goes in there, so it's beta. This guy's beta. Workspace, radius 1, resolution 1, vertex color, spatial color. There you go. There you go. That works. Radius shouldn't be 1. It should be 0.2, maybe too strong. There you go. Nice, kind of fuzzy, kind of lighting. I have a feeling that we can increase the contrast using color map. Density equals the factor. Alpha is the alpha. Maybe alpha goes into the strings. It is a little bit rougher. And we can further multiply it. Too strong. Might need kind of ramping. Maybe this is already quite strong, perhaps. It's definitely something to play around with. But if you wanna have like a tree or bush with a soft edges and harder. Let me switch that around. You don't see much difference. It's okay. I think it's a good start. Emission can go there now. It's a little bit stronger. Plug that in there. We have something inside there. Density, and it's a oh. It's weird. We have a little bit like glow. Something like that. Color particle speed. Let's try volume absorption. Color goes in there. Density can come from particles. Volume, just add into there. So I think these three will affect each other. Maybe color shouldn't come from there. Maybe this can be different color or a different texture even. Updating image, loading density, path tracing. Let's try red. Perhaps gonna absorb red color. A little bit slow, but I can make it full screen. Yeah, so anyhow, this is just another quick demonstrations exploring Blender Cycles point density, which now have a color vertex option. And we start with a grease pencil, remember? Grease pencil, and then turn it into like a kind of point cloud using Sverchok. And then we also pipe in some colors into it. The resolution at the moment is very low, that's why we get this kind of a little bit of a 3D voxel kind of a look. But you know, this is pretty still really cool area to explore. I haven't used it to create like a flame or explosion. However, this is interesting, just to generate this kind of puffy or bushy kind of colorful trees. It doesn't need to be a colorful trees because this is Blender Cycles, and I think we can just mix the RGB perhaps with a, I don't know, if you give it a green. Hopefully this should turn green, but obviously I think we need to put the density there. It's a lot about Blender cycles that I'm not familiar with. So, add, multiply. No, I think it can be like a 3. Surface. We can actually plug in the surface. I saw this on another YouTube channel where he just plug in a glass material and the effects looks quite nice looking. Just another possibility. Maybe I could just turn the color into grayscale. How do I do that? Average, texture, color gamma, hue, saturations, brightness. Okay, we have edges here. Color can go in there. Turn off saturation, plug in there. Here you go, just marking around a little bit. We have a bunch of fireflies, but overall, this is, I think, quite nice. And then we still have back connection with Sverchok, and really, where is the vertices? Back to the vertices, we can add a randomized input vertices. That's always come in handy, and give a little bit of value and plug in the frame, and this can be 0.15. Then use math, current frame math 0.2, plug into the seed. Now we should have like a, maybe moving too fast still. Oh yeah, but that's because it's random, it's not like a noise. That's alright. If I render this out, probably we can have something that's quite interesting. It's kind of, and there it's the points are particles. The color is from Sverchok, so we can really use turbulence for the points. but that can be like a glowing kind of bush. I don't know. Can be anything. If I make the particles to fall, turn on Newtonian, normal 1. Let's see how it's gonna look now. Yeah, those particles. I remember back then when I used Blender 2.5 for the first time and Blender particles, and it was a Blender internal. And Blender particles can create this kind of fireflies kind of object look. I was really happy because it's so simple to use, you know. And now we have volume and all this kind of GPU rendering, and it's quite amazing. Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it there. There are so many things to explore with Blender Cycles. There you go. Another live noding video with BlenderSushi. If you have questions, you can leave comments and you can give me suggestion as well. You can like the video and then subscribe to the channel, and I will make more live noding video. Yeah, hopefully. Okay, thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you on the next video.